Hello there, I'm Kid Champagne Matthew Haberman, and it's another edition for Nostalgia Time with Kid Champagne. I am here today. We're going to pop the champagne for the 20th anniversary of a great sitcom, Titus. Titus, a sitcom that ran from 2000 to 2002, created by Christopher Titus, Jack Kenny, and Brian Hargrove. It's starring Christopher Titus, David Shatra, Cynthia Watros, Zach Ward, and Stacy Keach. It is based on Christopher Titus' actual family life and based off his one-man show, Norman Rockwell is Bleeding. The history of the show: while Titus was performing his one-man show, Norman Rockwell is Bleeding, an executive from Fox was at his show and brought it to other executives to come along, and they loved it and pitched an idea to Titus, and in 2000, Titus was on the air. And the show starts, how the show starts, it starts with in a room where Titus turns the light on and with an electric chair, which we call the neutral space. And in it, he gives out his thoughts of the day and leads up to a period where Titus's family gets into some sort of pickle, and it comes out where Titus has to mend the relationship and solve the problem and get them out. Today, we pop the champagne to Titus. I'm here today with my fellow guests. First, the host of Unger the Radar, my good friend, Randy Unger. How are you?
I'm great, Matt. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, you're welcome. And all my other guests, the head of Cult Cafe, Matt Roran. Matt, how are you?
Quite well, thank you.
Now, both of you, know, Matt, you are a fan of the show Titus.
Yes.
So, what made you like the show Titus first?
Well, it's one of those things, I grew up watching a lot of TV, so I pretty much gave almost every sitcom a shot. And when it first aired, I fell in love with it. I thought it was incredible. I watched it through its 3 seasons. I just, I've got a fondness for it. I'm glad we did this. I got to rewatch some of the episodes. Hadn't seen them in a while, so at least a decade. So it was quite enjoyable to catch up again with an old friend.
Absolutely. I mean, I gotta tell you, it really is a funny show. I mean, when I first watched it back in 2000, I thought it was so funny. And whenever it aired, I think it aired like in Fox in 2000 on Wednesdays. And every Wednesday, it was like, I just had to watch it. I called it the funny show because it really was a funny show.
Yeah.
And I have the DVDs, and when they came out, I was ecstatic. Like, I had to get those DVDs. It was just amazing. So, yeah. And Christopher Titus is one of my favorite comedians. And I will get back into my experience with Titus in a moment. And Randy, you have seen some of the episodes. What did you think of the show?
So I know it came out 20 years ago. That's crazy. And I've never seen a single episode until about a week ago. And thank you for bringing Titus into my life, because it actually is a very smart, funny show. It's very well written. And I'd say the performances are really on point here. Christopher Titus, he's got kind of like this like Jim Carrey vibe to him, but very dysfunctional. It's kind of like, it almost has a Married with Children feel to it, which was also on Fox. So that tone really resonated with me, and I really respect the unique style of Titus.
Yeah, for one thing, I know with Fox is that they had the history of bringing on these edgy yet funny sitcoms, with like Married with Children. The Simpsons at the time was edgy, not recently, but the Titus brought that edgy and funny show, and it's just it was just brought my mind. It was cast amazing. The cast is just amazing.
Seriously, like the supporting cast in that show, like Titus is great, but I think the talent involved, every character is perfect. I mean, like everyone does such a good job. I mean, Dave and Tommy are two of the funniest on-screen characters I've ever seen in a sitcom.
So here's to it. So for the characters of the show, of course, Christopher Titus, and he plays himself. He is the protagonist and the center of the dysfunctional chaos of the show. He owns his own hot rod shop called Titus High Performance. He employs his half-brother Dave and friend Tommy, a person who strives to get his father's approval, but gets little effort. With a father who's an alcoholic and a manic, depressive, schizophrenic mother, he always goes out of his way to mediate any situation. We also have a character, Dave Scoville, who was played by Zach Ward, Titus' half-brother. After being abandoned by his birth mother, after being married to Christopher's dad, he takes him in. A stoner with a marijuana habit, is a servant when it comes to detailing cars, and he has flashes of genius at times. And we have Erin Fitzpatrick, that was played by Cynthia Watros, Titus' girlfriend and later fiance with a dysfunctional family of her own, with both parents alcoholics, a sister who's a sexually promiscuous drug addict with a teenage daughter that she hardly cares for, and her brother, Michael, who's a criminal always in and out of jail, but is a person who is loving and caring, but often gets taken advantage of at times, always tries to mend the relationship between Christopher and his father, and always comes to Christopher's rescue. And we have Tommy Shafter, Christopher's friend since childhood. His father was married for many years before coming out as gay. He is very flamboyant, but is very supportive to Christopher at all times. And then we have Ken Papa Titus. Christopher and Dave's father, who's an alcoholic, chain-smoking booty wrangler, who often pulls pranks on his kids in order to prevent them from being wussies. A man who is married and divorced 5 times, and the women cleaned him out every time, but is a loving father and did shape them to be model citizens. I mean, as far for everything was casting, Stacy Keach was casted as Ken Titus. I mean, for one thing, and when it came to the casting, Cynthia Watros was casted right away as Erin. That was a done deal. For Zach Ward, it was actually he was cast as Dave Scoville, but he was competing with that role with actually Steve Carell at the time.
Oh, okay. Interesting, yeah.
Which was definitely interesting. And when they casted for Stacy Keach, I mean, that was due at his audition. Ken intimidated Christopher and felt, oh my God, this guy is great. And you can tell him the talent and how he was. He was an intimidating man. And he just did it. And you could just tell, like, oh man, it's just, Ken just had so much talent. Do you agree?
I can't imagine any other actor playing that part. I'm trying to.
I mean, I imagine if someone was just playing my dad in a show, it would be Stacy Keach. That's like that. Like he is he is such a dad type, and I mean, like that role is him. It's like what you've heard from, Titus's like stand up and whatever when he talks about his dad. It's like you can't help but picture Stacy Keach. Like it's.
Yeah. Perfect performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss some episodes about that, and we'll go over those in a minute. I also want to put in that there were some guest stars who starred in the sitcom throughout the season. Some Frankie Muniz guest starred in an episode. So did Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
Hey, Butthead. Okay.
Jay Leno guest starred in an episode as well. David Carradine, Phyllis Diller, Alex Borstein, and Octavia Spencer.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Don't forget David Hyde Pierce.
That's right. Motivational speaker.
in his like most non-Niles Crane role that he's ever had.
Niles. That's great.
So, as I mentioned for you guys, I sent out some random episodes for us all to watch. One thing about this show, even through the years of how many times it's been out, every time I watch the episode, I'm laughing like it's the first time I've seen these episodes. It doesn't matter which episode I put on, I just laugh. And if I'm laughing just like that, it's a great show.
Yeah. Yeah, the jokes all hold up, and it's so ahead of its time too. But not only in the humor, but social issues they tackle in it are stuff that most shows haven't even tackled like until recently.
Yeah.
It seems like it was just like looked at a glance and not thought of until now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So going in now into our episode reviews. Our first episode review we have is called The Pilot, which is named Dad is Dead. Now, Christopher and Dave become worried when their alcoholic father was not coming out of his bedroom for 4 days without drinking a beer. To which they believe that Dad is dead. Along with his girlfriend Erin and friend Tommy, they start to contemplate life without their father and how much they influence their lives. Now, I think, of course, with this, this introduces all the main characters to the show, which I think was beautifully done.
Yeah.
I laughed at the flashbacks. I think the flashbacks are what makes the show funny. What do you think?
It is interesting the way they do that. Yeah. Trying to think of other sitcoms that employ that technique. I think Malcolm in the Middle kind of does stuff like that. And but yeah, Titus does it in a really original way. So I really respect that technique.
And it's nice that like one of the great things about that episode is like while you see Ken in the flashbacks, the fact that he's not on screen until like besides flashbacks until the end of the episode, just his appearance is just so powerful and so funny when like it's like his kids are like making fun of him thinking that he's dead.
Yes.
They spend the entire episode debating on who's gonna go in and check on his dead body, and then eventually they're eating cake. They're celebrating with a cake,
Yes.
and then making fun of their father. And of course, while Titus is full in, you just hear that beer open, and there he is, just standing there, and then. I think my favorite thing about that scene is it cuts, you see, it goes wide, and you see all of them there, and they're all, like, so shocked, and Tommy has urine all over his pants. And it's the first time we see Tommy wet himself, and it's so subtle, and it's so beautiful. It's probably one of the best pilots of a TV show of all time. It's just like it just goes in with a punch, and it goes out with a punch.
I mean, I gotta tell you, it has some of the most notable quotes, and I always think for the quotes, like when he starts, like, you know, dysfunctional people can handle anything. Once you've driven your drunk father to your mom's parole hearing, what else is there? Because I don't think there's anything else he can handle. Because once he handled that, I think he could really do handle as much anything.
It's great.
And now, just to know, like, how the show was actually done, they done it in real time, like a play. So they rehearse it and then they air it. So it was like continuous. It's like you were seeing a play. But then they take a break so that the editors can put into the flashbacks. But it's just so rounded. But here's a note for how that Christopher wanted this to be the pilot and just introduce all the main characters to the show. But he wanted Dad is Dead to be the pilot because after the series ended, he wanted the latter to essentially rape the former, which the former example is his one-man show, Norman Rockwell is Bleeding. So I gotta say, the anti-dad was great. Anti-dad, where there is hope, I will stop it. Where self-esteem runs its shiny little head, I will be there to kick it in the testicles.
I'll be right back. I have to destroy your brother.
Randy, what did you think of the pilot?
I mean, I thought it was great. I thought, you know, introducing all the characters brilliantly. You know, right off the bat, you can see the talent that goes into this show from like I said, the writing, the acting, and yeah, it was a great introduction to the show for me personally.
Always with the show, you got to start with the intro. You got to start with the pilot.
Yep.
The next one, which is my all-time favorite episodes, is Hard Ass, and that one is when Aaron and Titus argue over how to discipline Amy, Aaron's wild, destructive teenage niece who was thrown out after beating Aaron's brother with a skateboard. And Titus catches Amy planning to sell marijuana and causes chaos as Titus first confiscates the marijuana. Amy retaliates by tasing Titus, leaving Aaron at the table in like a state like, okay, this is normal. And after regaining consciousness, Titus tries to discipline Amy as the same way his father did when he caught him smoking pot. However, it doesn't work. And after advice from Ken, Christopher refuses to be like his father, and Erin refuses not to be like her parents and decides to, well, call the cops. I think this episode was extreme. This is one of my favorites. It's extremely funny, especially with the flashbacks with Ken, Titus. When you see one of the first flashbacks, you know, Ken confiscates Christopher's marijuana, and then he goes to the bathroom, threatening like, no, please don't flush. You know, they'll kill us both. Yeah, and then he shuts the door, and then he takes the marijuana, makes a sniff, and then he smiles like, oh, that's good, and then he just puts it in his pocket and just and then flushes it. I think that was funny. What do you guys think of this episode?
Oh, I mean, I love the storyline of Amy and her relationship with Tommy, which is ridiculous and abusive, but I think that it came across really well, comedy-wise. And yeah, she is just, that scene where she explains her drug dealing and then moving on to college, now she'll have a great life. And then Titus is like dumbfounded, like that kind of makes sense. her way of thinking. So yeah, the character of Amy was really, really fleshed out, and I actually look forward to future episodes with her.
Yeah,
She kind of appeared throughout, right?
yeah. It's
Okay.
it's great how she's kind of like if Titus was smarter when he was in school. So the flashbacks are just great because it's like how she's doing it, and it's like working out versus like he's an idiot. Like I still love that. There's that one flashback. I don't think it's this episode, but when he comes home late and he falls through the table.
That wasn't this episode. That wasn't that episode.
Yeah, where he falls through the kitchen table, and then Stacy Keach's dad Ken comes out,
and then look, cat dragged in.
Yeah.
Or
so he's like, I'm gonna leave, and then his hand goes through the window of the door, and then he opens it from the outside. It's like it's such great physical comedy. It's so good, so good.
And I gotta also say the other flashback in it, it's just like you can show how intimidating like Ken Titus was, how Stacy Keach made that. I mean, let's just face it. I love the bits with teenage Titus. It just made it just hysterical, and like I just need one, and I'll just never do it again. And then Stacy Keach just like has this mean grin look on him. You didn't have to say anything. But they're gonna give me a wedgie. But I didn't help in the last one. And he hangs off the weed and he goes off like he has a wedgie. And then he sniffs and then he's smiling again. It's just that kind of talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next flashback, the thing you see where he explains how he was a hard ass, and then you hear the music going, and you see Titus just like pointing at Titus, at teenage Titus, and he's being like pretending like he's being hit by bullets. I think that was a funny one too. What did you think of that?
Oh man, well I just want to go back and say how much I love Stacy Keach's persona, his presence in the show is crazy, and he does like this sadistic little grin when he does when he smells the weed, or if he's onto something that he's like really in something very nefarious. He does like it's like a half smile. There's like the top portion of his teeth show, or it's the bottom half. I don't know, but it's just, and coupled with the mustache, it makes for one of the most sinister characters I've ever seen on TV.
Yeah, he has a hair lip, so like
yeah,
it definitely like works in favor of that smirk. Like it gives a little sinister. It's like Joaquin Phoenix has that, where it's like it allows him to have this like weird sinister smile.
Or even Jack Lemmon in that, what was that 60s movie where he had a mustache? It's a Mad Mad World? No.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he had
one of those.
He had a mustache in a couple, I think.
Yeah, but it was like a pencil thin mustache, very evil looking, but humorous at the same time. So I think Stacy Keach really brought a lot to his role in that respect. So very well done.
Yeah, I think it was just great work in that episode, especially Stacy Keach. And one thing is for sure, I'm just going to put it back. Stacy Keach actually went to Christopher's father, Ken Titus himself. Always had inspiration and always wanted to know how to make the role better, or if there's something funny, how can he make it funny?
Was there a lot of like physical similarities between real Titus and Stacy Keach? I'm curious.
It's been a long time, and I should have actually rewatched it, but in the DVDs there was an extra footage where they did an interview of Christopher's father, Ken. And I say if you have the DVD or if it's on YouTube, watch it, because it would be very informative.
I'm gonna check that out.
Sadly, Ken Titus died in 2001.
Oh wow. Huh. Wow.
So, all right, on to our next episode review. Amy's birthday. And I chose this one for a good reason. I think Randy will get in touch. We'll get to this in a moment. So, Amy's birthday. Erin plans a 16th birthday party for her niece, Amy. But everything goes downhill when Amy's mother is passed out on the cake in a drug-out state. Tommy comes in as Don Jean, the clown, or like Amy likes to call it, Jean Gay Jean, the clown. And what happens is that Tommy calls social services after seeing how Amy lives. However, Christopher doesn't want Amy to live with him and Erin, and neither does Amy. So they devise a plan and clean the place up and make an act for the social worker. However, Amy's alcoholic and abusive stepfather, Joe, comes home and portrays an act with Erin. Joe asks who called social services, but Amy falsely confesses, and Joe was about to hit Amy before Christopher comes to the rescue, and Amy decides to go and live with Christopher and Erin to Christopher's demise. I chose this episode because for the example for what you said, Matt, it was tackling one of those issues, domestic violence and child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But I also chose this one for a reason because it has one actor that just graces the past for me so well. Biff himself, Tom Wilson. And also Octavia Spencer was in it as well.
Yeah, both of them. It's crazy.
I mean, of course, I thought there were some things that were funny. He just made that episode funny, which even to put it through like some with the controversial issue, Christopher just finds that way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved the appearance of Tom Wilson. Obviously, I thought he basically brought back Biff Tannen about maybe 10 years after Back to the Future Part 3. And so, you know, he didn't skip a beat. He still has that comedic yet intimidating persona, which he encompassed in the Back to the Future trilogy. So it was really great to see him back in fine form. I think the only other thing I've seen him in was probably Freaks and Geeks. I can't think of any other notable roles that the great Tom Wilson has done. And then you've got Octavia Spencer. This was about a decade before she won an Oscar for The Help. So it was really great seeing her in an relatively early performance. So this episode, I mean, it tackles really crazy social issues, parenting issues, and it's got two really, really good actors. So Matt, thank you for picking this episode. This might be my favorite episode that you selected.
Oh, thank you. And Matt, what did you think of this episode?
It's a fantastic episode. I mean, it's, you know, dealing with social services issue. I mean, it's especially like the cutaways where you have like him talking about like where it's like social issue, the social services is not your friend. Like just like you know, I just think like the way he tackles it is just like perfect. And like I love like when they're like they cleaned for you, and it's like well thank you. Like whereas like she just does not, the social services woman just does not want to be there. She's like, I don't see anything wrong with it no matter what. She's just like whatever. It's just, you know, so it's so many funny situations in this. You know, Tommy as the clown. You know, when it's like all right, who it was like the clown in the closet. Yeah, it's like,
Definitely the clown.
It's a clown in the closet.
Yeah, Tom Wilson just like was like, I don't care. It's my girlfriend's kid. Yeah.
great.
It's a classic.
Yeah, I mean, I picked this for those two reasons. I think it was just beautifully directed, in a way. However, I think there was like Fox did get a little bit on Christopher for doing that kind of episode. We'll get more into that. I'll be talking later with our last episode that we will review. And another episode which actually was so hysterically funny, yet it was turned into the wrong way possible. Intervention.
Yeah.
Christopher, Aaron, Tommy, and Dave stage an intervention for Ken after learning that he has stopped drinking and that his sobriety is making him a miserable, boring old man. And Christopher comes up with a plan to do an intervention to get him to start drinking again, which is just so funny. Yet it's just been one of the most bizarre episodes, and it backfires on Christopher big time. Because when Ken starts drinking, you better start swimming for the lighthouse, laddie. The fog is rolling in. And then Ken gets Christopher, Dave, and Tommy fighting over each other after Ken starts telling Christopher took money from the shop and that Dave wrecked a car and Tommy caused a mistake on the tax returns and had naked dreams about Christopher.
Dream. It was just one.
One dream. One big and dream. And then also Ken tells Aaron to Christopher his worst fear. It just made me laugh so long. It was Ken Titus. It was one of Stacy Keach's best performances too.
Yeah.
I think this was probably one of the most memorable episodes. Like it's like almost the whole episode, like in my memory for the last 20 years. Just like it's such a quality episode. The premise and the delivery are just perfect.
I think there's a joke like every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Not more. And it all takes place in the living room of Papa Titus. So it kind of had this like old school sitcom feel, maybe like All in the Family or like Three's Company. So, returning to that kind of style, that vibe was awesome. And yeah, like I said, the jokes were like rapid fire. The script of this episode is insane.
I also love when when Aaron introduces her friend to Ken. He's going to love you. I'm not in the mood for company today. And then like Ken asks, how was your friend? And then she's like crying, pouring
gasoline
over that. And then we see like it shots out like she lit herself on fire, committing suicide. Although I do not agree with doing that, but it was hard not to laugh.
So horrible. Lighting yourself on fire over Papa Titus. So sad.
I mean, it is one of my favorites, and I watched that episode. I watched that episode recently, actually a couple of times. I just don't know. I just keep laughing at the same. It's like it's fresh and new to me, and that's why it's just such a good show.
That's the testament of a good show or even a movie. If you can watch it after like 20 years and it having that impact on you, then I think that's a quality show. Definitely.
Yeah, it's when the jokes hold up, and not only do they hold up, they hit you in a different place when you age. It's like they're you know, a lot of the Zucker early movies or like Mel Brooks movies, there's always something you notice later on, the older you get, that you didn't quite get before. And this show had a lot of those jokes that like didn't really hit me when I was, 20 years old, but as a 40-year-old, as a parent, it hits, and it's great to have something like that.
Exactly. It reminds me of Three Stooges, that kind of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Watch
Yeah,
that.
there's so much physicality in Titus. I mean, I would say especially Titus and Tommy have so much physical comedy. Like the two of them are great. Like it's a lot of stumbling pratfalls and just like goofy shit.
Yeah, I would even compare Titus to like I mentioned before, like he's got sort of a Jim Carrey vibe to him,
Yeah,
but a little darker.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that was very interesting to me. And yeah, I don't think Matt. Another question for you. He hasn't really had much of a movie career, right, Christopher?
No, he hasn't, but he has been in some good films.
Okay.
I mean, he has been in Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Okay.
He actually just created this new. There was a more recent movie that he produced and directed. Actually, this is another thing that Titus does, is that he goes outside the box and gives the people that you would never think a shot of being in the movie. The Special Unit is the most recent movie.
Okay.
He was a cop that got reassigned to a unit. It was called Special Unit, and most of them are with people with special needs, and the actors who played them all have special needs.
Wow.
So the mate, and it just came out. It's so funny. It's on. You can download it on iTunes. Release it on iTunes. I read this, and I saw the movie. It has a great story, and just how they all acted was just amazing. You would never, and it's just directors that would never give them a shot. Titus gave them a shot. So one thing I know about Titus is that this guy is just a class act person. And
you can tell even from just a lot of the things tackled on the show, like that he is like, where is he's from? Where he's from? Like Midwest or?
He's from California.
California, okay. But yeah, it's so much of the issues, especially like there's an episode which wasn't on your list, but I watched it anyway, which is Tommy's Not Gay.
Oh yes,
which is an episode I loved. I remembered loving, and it like the way it tackles homophobia is insane for the time. I mean, a lot of the 80s and 90s, pretty much every movie, TV show you had was punching down on gay. Everything was fucking like homo, like whatever. And it's like just the way that Titus handles homophobia in like 2000 is like mind blowing comparatively. Like whereas like a lot of shows didn't tackle stuff like that until fairly recently, over the last 10 years. And he handled that, like between like homophobia, racism, sexual abuse, domestic violence. Like he covered it all in the classiest way you can, in like a situation comedy, and like with respect. It really blew my mind watching it again. Like just how he did such a good, serious job in a comedy with these subjects.
That's great.
You see, a lot of comedians are steering away because of things that have been offensive.
Mm.
We don't see that. We don't see that with Christopher Titus at all. That's why he is embracing it and putting it in the perspective.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of those comedians that we're going to be seeing for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you need comedy, especially now. I don't know what Titus's schedule's like these days, but if he were to come up with like a really biting social commentary stand-up routine right now, I think that would be very something a lot of people would hold on to. So,
Well, we'll be to that actually. We'll be getting an update on things that will be coming, and I'll show you. But getting back to we got 2 more episodes that we will be reviewing. I know I gave a lot more, but I think 2 more might be good. Life Forward. I had to put this one in here. A self-help guru gets more than he bargained for when the Titus family come to his seminar, Life Forward, as it turns into many issues. Tommy tricks Christopher, Aaron, and Dave into going to a motivational seminar hosted by Jerry October. After convincing Aaron to take charge of her life and make the call to graduate school, he then convinces Titus to confess that it was his fault that his hot rod shop is driven to the ground, and calls his father that he loves him and forgiveness. With that alarms Ken, he drives over to the seminar and is really upset. And he takes control of the seminar by ripping people's self-esteem and making their minds all hit rock bottom. Because that's what Ken Titus does, everybody, right? I thought this was funny because who they had as a guest star, Matt, you know who that is?
David Hyde Pierce, yeah.
I think it was also funny where the flashback where Ken catches Christopher throwing eggs at cops. So he locks him out, and the cops just throw eggs at him, and then a helicopter throws more eggs, and then so, thanks, Ken. Consider the DOI never happened. So we can't deal with them.
This episode also contains something that me and my brother have been quoting. We constantly quote to each other since this episode is Tommy when he keeps saying "J'accuse."
Oh yes.
And he's like, stop saying that. But like me and my brother say that to each other all the time. Like "J'accuse" because of this episode. It's fantastic that's one of those things that stuck with me for all these years, me and my brother.
And I think David Hyde Pierce was perfectly.
Oh, so good. So good.
He was so against type, like you said, very not Niles, over the top, flashy, arrogant. And he's just a great comedic actor all around.
I love where he gives his phone to Aaron and then he's like, where's my phone? It's like she ran off. He's like, where's my phone? But he's incredible. And then how he becomes like enamored by Ken Titus.
Jerry October learns the Ken Titus way.
I could have even seen
Ken Titus. I will learn the Ken Titus way.
I could have even seen like Ben Stiller in this type of role. He kind of was this.
Well, it's very Ben Stiller's done so many characters like that.
Yeah. I'm glad they went with Pierce for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a funny episode. So I'm actually going to conclude, before I get into our last one, I am going to conclude one holiday one, because this is actually, I do want to, it's the perfect Thanksgiving. A Thanksgiving dinner between the Tituses and the Fitzpatricks turns into a brawl that ends with the 2 families in the hospital and Aaron having doubts about being together with Christopher. Christopher has to make every effort to convince her that they will be okay. This is also the first episode where we really see Aaron's family. And I just think, putting those 2 together truly was like a time bomb ready to go off.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny. Who do you in this? Whose family is worse, Christopher or Aaron's?
I feel like Aaron's is.
Yeah.
It's like weird. I guess I relate more to Titus's family, even though my family's nothing like Titus's family. But they seem like a more normal American family than Aaron's, even though Aaron's are, I guess, more normal people.
Bringing these two groups
But that brother.
together, bringing these people together at dinner was just a recipe for disaster. And yeah, it just went in so many horrible directions. Most of the episode was at the hospital, which was cute, especially with the what were they were eating, like, was that a plate of food or was that cake that they put on that like stretcher?
I think they were all like Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Make sure the guy, you didn't get that off a dead guy. That was so weird, so dark. I love it. You don't see that type of humor in other shows. So
because Christopher Titus goes in with a dislocated shoulder. I love the scene when the nurse is like, she drugs Aaron, because she's freaking out, and then he's like, "Oh, give me some of the good stuff." She takes him and pops his arm back in, and then Dave walks in with that line where it's like, "We gotta leave this place, man. I just heard a little girl scream." Oh, so good.
It's just I just like it in the beginning of the flashbacks of how they do, and Mike is like edging Tommy on, like, "Sure, I'll have some homo bread." Who's the homo now? It was just funny, and just seeing like all of them, like Aaron's mother and father, like just being those nasty alcoholics. At least Ken just is an alcoholic, but he pulls him. But he knows how to do it.
Awesome. And back to Papa Titus, the intervention, was that the one that was where the boss wanted him to drink?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's more okay. Just want to bring it back.
Sober. That's not who I hired.
Right. That's great. That's probably the best episode that you told us to watch, I'd say.
Yeah. That was not only functional, he was employee of the month.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be late. Awesome.
I mean, for one thing, I do this for all for when the holidays come up. When Thanksgiving comes around that time, I have to watch the Titus the Perfect Thanksgiving. That's like my traditional one. I don't know why, but it's Thanksgiving. I have to watch it. Also, during the holidays, Christmas time, I also like to watch Titus The Last Noel. And
that's an incredible episode.
And Titus Houseboat. But I love The Last Noel because I just loved his version of the night before Christmas. And I love it. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring except the psycho bitch on the couch.
That episode, like the way they it's all about domestic abuse, and it's the way it's handled is so good. If you can take these topics and make them funny, like you're doing it right.
I also like, and it just came through it, and then I just love, like, this is Rudolph, I thought, as I stared into space, but I must have had a "what's your problem, bitch" look. Bam! So she punched me in the face. I then took her Pradas, the right and the left shoe, and both out into the street. Both shoes. I then threw. And she, out the door, she went in hot pursuit. Yeah. She was like running like a fat guy in a velour jogging suit. With fear in my throat and something in my face, I locked up the door and hoped I had mace. I tended to Rudolph, and then I heard it was Noel with the vodka bottle slammed in the door of the vodka bottle. Still just about to hear. I know the window couldn't much take it, and then she screamed, "Unlock it, you bastard, or I swear I'll break it." But I couldn't do that. It was a rented place. So I opened the door. Bam! She punched me in the face. So for increasing my manhood from bottom to top, I screamed like a little girl, "I'm calling the cops!" I just thought that was so funny.
Was that from memory just now?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Nicely done, sir. It's good.
He just put that, and I also Titus houseboat. I thought that was also funny too.
Yeah, it was a good one.
So on
It
to
had David Carradine in it.
yeah, Dean was in it. Yes, he played Bob.
Bob.
Bob, 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 Bob.
So random. So random.
So I'm gonna do this. Is gonna be our last episode review. This is called The Protector, the last episode in the sitcom. When Amy gets in trouble for beating up a boy who sexually harassed her by calling her a slut and making lewd comments about her butt, Titus takes matters into his own hands by threatening him at the school with a baseball bat. However, it gets out of hand when Principal Wells threatens to call the cops and put him in jail. Erin gets called in, and the boy's father is called as well. Amy has a panic attack and tells Erin that the boy's father, who sexually molested her when she was a child, however, because of Amy's past of lies and action, it's hard to believe her, but they need to know the truth. And they do uncover the truth, that it was true. This episode was really controversial.
Yeah.
It actually got the network arguing with Christopher, and was actually, this episode was banned for a little bit because of the extreme reference of sexual abuse. And then it led to the end of the production of the show.
Really? So this episode, because of this episode, they didn't go on to season 4?
Correct.
Wow. That's very interesting, because it's such a powerful, well-acted episode.
Yeah, and it's just another. It shows you like how ahead of its time the show was, because it's like, I feel like it's one of those things where like nowadays, like they'd probably want shows to produce such a well-made kind of like after-school special type. It's crazy that this was on the same time as Law and Order SVU had just started. So sexual abuse is all over network television. So it's crazy that like Fox had a problem. I mean, Fox is a weird channel because they've always had the most edgy stuff and always had the biggest problem with it. It's like, what?
Yeah. However, Married with Children went on like over 10 years.
Oh yeah, it was on forever, but it's like it still was like a problem child. Like every time they Family Guy, it's all these shows, they hire people who are always walking that line and then get mad at them when they do.
Yeah.
Passive
aggressive much.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, this is like such an incredible episode. I don't think I had ever seen it before until now. I don't remember it.
So good.
But it really wowed me.
Yeah. And the girl who plays Amy, she's, the previous episode I saw her in, I was like, okay, she's a troublemaker. But in this episode, she really shows a vulnerability as a molested child who's obviously been, traumatized by her past, and how she confronts it today. And, back then today, is just, it really showed how strong of a character she became, and a great actress who played her.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of the thought episodes. It tackled the issue very well again. I know Titus was trying to send the message. As much as I can say to Fox, I think they tore it down pretty hard, I think. And so it's hard because I would have loved to see the continuation of the show. However, Christopher has given a little gift, and that's what I'm coming to you. Because it marks the 20th anniversary of the show Titus, on August 21st, Titus is debuting a 20th anniversary reunion, a virtual event. It will have the reunion of Christopher Titus, Stacy Keach, David Shatra, Zach Ward, and Cynthia Watros. They will have a roundtable discussion panel where fans will be able to ask questions and they will answer. And the event will include airing the last 2 episodes of Titus with their commentary.
That's cool.
And it all leads up to a new creation of the first episode pilot, continuing off where they left off of the Titus family show. They're all getting together for an episode that they just taped and aired, and it's all going to be part of this event. I've already seen that they have done some pictures on Christopher Titus's page, which is just amazing. So it's on August 21st. Tickets are $10 for general admission. If you're a big fan of Titus, this is just great to see how things and how he's going to tie up loose ends. It's just I'm looking forward to it.
What was the date on that?
August 21st.
21st. Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That sounds fun. And they're gonna do a special reunion episode in character.
In character.
Wow. Cool.
I mean, you can just see how that cast was just so dedicated to that show.
Yeah.
Was Zach Ward listed over there in the?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and I talked to him at a convention a couple years back about Titus, and he was very, very adamant about how much he loved that show.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
And Titus is still a touring stand-up comedian. So I met Christopher Titus twice. One time for his show Neverlution, which was really hysterical. I mean, he's just a comedic genius. Even you see him on stand-up, he's so funny. And then I saw him again 6 years later for his Born with a Defect tour. And this is like a tour, a show where if you don't want kids, see it. And if you have kids, I'm sorry. And also during that time, he was working on his new material that would lead to his new show at the time, Amerigeddon. And when I was now I'll tell you about that experience there. So as he was talking, there was a patron that got heated for what Christopher said. So it was almost like he was ready to strike Titus. It was that oh my God. Well, and of course security asked him to leave, but it's so edgy that, but I think he does a good job. If you can, that's what comedians do. Sometimes they get to that little edge where it could piss you off or not, but that's what a comedian's job is to do.
As long as he doesn't pull a Michael Richards, I think we're good.
Well, that's just not knowing how to deal with a heckler.
True.
He was so out of work. He hadn't done stand up in a while, and then totally was not ready to go back into that field.
Yeah. Sorry to bring that up, guys. Just throwing it out.
So, and one more thing. Now, Titus, the show was distributed to 20th Century Fox Television. Now, we know that Disney bought 20th Century Fox. So the distribution rights for that show and its archives are now Walt Disney property. So that means that the Titus characters are Disney characters.
Amy's a Disney princess.
That's horrifying.
And it also gives me like my proposal, like, how could Disney use this material now that these are characters of Disney? I mean, you can have Erin dressed up as a princess greeting people like in her ways, and if you tick her off, you could be dead.
Or have an evil Papa Titus whose weakness is to take away his beer.
Well, here's one thing, and I'm going to this is my last thing this is my proposal. Now, we all know that a certain ride in Disney World is going to be changing, and that is Splash Mountain.
Okay.
Now, I mean, there's been like talks like, don't change it. It's great. People want to hear Zippity Doo Dah. People don't want to they want to leave it with the Brer Bear. Well, I mean, I can understand it is due for a change. Instead, for the Princess and the Frog, my idea is this. Dysfunctional Family Splash Mountain featuring the Titus family. Let's do it now. Here it is. The ride can start in the log flume as it goes with a story with the characters from Titus. You can board the log flume, and it starts with going through the neutral space with Christopher Titus turning on the lights and introducing him to his world and meet my family. And, it goes through some kind of story where they're all dysfunctional.
Some nice flashbacks.
Like flashbacks leading up to the big drop. And as it goes to the end of the ride, we all see them like, thank you for coming to visit my family. And we can hear Ken Titus on a piano singing zippity doo dah, zippity a.
And instead of a log flume, it could be a hot rod racer. Just an idea.
It could be, but I just think that's my proposal. So Disney, instead of Princess and the Frog, go with mine. Go with mine. Yeah. Dysfunctional Family Splash Mountain featuring Titus. And it'll be so good. It's gonna probably drop a lot of people's mouths and get them thinking, I love you guys. We're not gonna be so dysfunctional. And then other rides will go on and they'll feel all happy.
Titus's Dysfunctional Family Tour or something like that. Well, we could work on the title. We'll work at the specifics when the time comes.
What do you think, Matt? Do you agree with that? What do you think?
That was great to me.
So with this, my closing arguments, this is, I just love this show, and I'm a huge fan of Christopher Titus, from his stand-up comedies to the show, and I'm hoping that either this new material for his new sitcom does get picked up either by a network or even Netflix or even with YouTube, or how he does it. I'm just amazed. I'm looking forward to the many years of Titus. So we make the toast to Titus. May you still make people laugh for many years.
Hear. Yes.
I want to thank my guests, Randy Unger, for joining me in this conversation, and Matt Roran. Thank you very much for coming on to discuss Titus. You've been great.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Matt. It's great as always.
Thank you. On our next episode of Kid Champagne, we are going back to sleepaway camp. So stay tuned. Kid Champagne, signing off.